college football playoff national championship game from Houston, Texas, featuring the Michigan Wolverines and the Washington Huskies. Welcome in to this edition of College Football Now by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you to preview this exciting matchup, the one we've all been waiting for after an exciting semifinal doubleheader on New Year's Day, where Washington was able to squeak it out, hang on against Texas. Michigan wins in overtime against Alabama. We get the number one and the number two teams facing off head-to-head in this championship game. Michigan comes in as about a 4.5-point favorite. Over-under set at 55.5. Both these teams with perfect records, undefeated on the year. The 9th-ranked scoring offense in the country from the Huskies, 12th-ranked scoring offense from Michigan, the number one scoring defense in all of America. The Michigan Wolverines possess, while Washington ranked 49th in the country at 24.1 points per game. The injury report for these two teams, a couple notable players in particular. For Washington, it's Dylan Johnson, who got hurt towards the end of the Sugar Bowl. At the time of this recording, he is questionable with a lower body injury. Meanwhile, the most notable for Michigan is offensive lineman Zach Zinter with a leg injury. He is out and will not play in the national championship game. So, before we go any further in today's show, if you want more college football videos, need you to subscribe to the channel, as we're talking college football all the time. And the bosses say we can bring you more college football content, everything from recruiting to the transfer portal, get you ready for the NFL draft and more, if we get 20 subs off today's video. So, sub it up, sub to College Football Now by Chat Sports, as we got you covered, talking college football all the time. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. The all-time head-to-head record, Michigan leads the series between these two teams 8-5. Their last meeting was not too long ago, actually. Back on September 11th of 2021, the Wolverines got the best of the Huskies with a 31-10 win, and they will be very familiar with each other in the future, as Washington will be joining the Michigan Wolverines in the Big Ten Conference next year, as Washington's going to be joined alongside USC, Oregon, and UCLA in an expanded 18-team Big Ten Conference beginning in 2024. And this will not be the last time they play this calendar year, as Washington will get to host the Michigan Wolverines coming up on October 5th of next season. The notable wins for Washington, it has been quite the road to get to this point, as they haven't always blown teams out, but they have found ways to win some big-time games this year, most recently against the Texas Longhorns, 37-31 in the Sugar Bowl. 2 wins over the Oregon Ducks in the Pac-12 title game and in the regular season. Also, each one on the road against Oregon State, and they were able to beat the Arizona Wildcats back on September 30th, 31-24. And Washington possesses the nation's longest winning streak, 21 in a row, dating back to last season. They've played a lot of good football over that stretch. Meanwhile, Michigan, they've really been battle-tested as of late. Their schedule got a lot tougher towards the end of the season, beating Penn State, beat Ohio State. Both those games were without their head coach, Jim Harbaugh. Then they went on to shut out Iowa in the Big Ten title game and won a thrower against the Alabama Crimson Tide in the Rose Bowl. That game going to overtime, 27-20. And they have a long win streak themselves. 14 in a row, 14-0 record. They come into this national championship game perfect. Somebody's got to lose. Somebody's streak is going to end between these two teams. Who you got? You going with the Michigan Wolverines, or you going with the Washington Huskies? Coming up later on in the show, I'll tell you who I have winning this one with my official prediction, but want to hear from you guys first. Spam Michigan in the comment section if you're going with the Wolverines. Spam W in the chat if you're going with the Washington Huskies. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. You pick 2 or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points, passing yards, receiving yards, and more. You can mix and match different leagues, NFL, college football, NBA, and more. A little look ahead to NFL action this weekend. CeeDee Lamb, I have getting less than 99.5 receiving yards. I know he had a big game last week against Detroit, but I think he comes back down to earth a little bit. Michael Pittman Jr. of the Colts, I got him having less than 74.5 receiving yards in their matchup against Houston. Let's say I put $20 down on this and it hits. That turns into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS, proud partner of College Football Now by Chat Sports. The quarterback comparison, Michael Penix Jr. and J.J. McCarthy, two of the best in all of college football, and both of them have bright futures, expected to be picked within the first two rounds of the draft if they both end up coming out in April. Penix with a completion percentage or just under 67%. McCarthy, one of the most accurate passers in college football this year, around 73%. Touchdown interception ratio, 35-9 for Penix. McCarthy, less interceptions, just 4, but less touchdowns, 22. Not the most mobile of quarterbacks between McCarthy and Penix, but they can escape and make plays with their legs. They can catch you off guard a bit with that ability, each of them with 3 rushing touchdowns. The question I have on Michigan's side of things with J.J. McCarthy is what version of J.J. McCarthy is ultimately going to show up for this Michigan Wolverines team? That remains to be seen. We've seen him on the biggest of stages play really, really good. He was spectacular in that Rose Bowl win, but we've seen him look really bad in some big games as well over the years. What version is going to show up? That might ultimately decide this outcome for this Michigan team. Meanwhile, with Washington, the track record of Michael Penix Jr. tells me that he's going to step up, that every time there's a big game, Michael Penix Jr. time and time again has answered the bell. He has looked great in some of the biggest moments. You go back to that Sugar Bowl against Texas, he made every single throw. Maybe he doesn't have the strongest arm, but it does a good job of putting the ball where only his receiver can get it. And he's got some pretty good receivers as well. More on them here in just a second. But let's ask you now, who's the better quarterback? Which guy would you rather have when it comes to the championship game on Monday night? You going with J.J. McCarthy or you going with Michael Penix Jr.? Type J for J.J. McCarthy. Type M for Michael Penix Jr. Let us know which quarterback you rather roll with in the comments section below. Don't miss out. We are going to be live on Seahawks today for our national championship watch party, as we'll be taking the Husky perspective for that game. We had a great time with our watch party for the Sugar Bowl, and we're going to run it back for the title game. Our coverage is going to get started 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific for the national title game. Subscribe to Seahawks today. Join me over on that channel for the national championship. Going to be a great time. You will not want to miss it. Coming up Monday night, 7:30 Eastern, live on Seahawks today. Let's look at the running back position now. The Huskies, led by Dylan Johnson, who has been really solid this year. 16 touchdowns, over 1,100 rushing yards. You don't see a ton of Will Nixon. And with that, with the question marks concerning Dylan Johnson as far as his health status after that injury he suffered in the All-State Sugar Bowl, that begs the question, how much will we see of Dylan Johnson? Because this Washington team badly needs Dylan Johnson to step up and to be able to depend on that running game. He's the heart and soul of that run game and has been lethal for that Washington Huskies team on that front. Meanwhile, on Washington's end of things, meanwhile, on Michigan's end of things, this duo has been dynamic this season and dating back to last season as well. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards have been outstanding. Corum was a Heisman candidate last year up until the very end when he ultimately got hurt. Donovan Edwards stepped in, and they were awesome. The run game did not let up when Donovan Edwards had to take over for Blake Corum. This year, Corum got his job back, but Donovan Edwards has still shown some flash in his own right. And when you look at these two, what they bring to the table, it's the best backfield in all of college football. And they are a problem for any team that they face. And you look at the Hog Mollies, the way that they push things on the offensive line in the trenches, that's what makes this thing go for Michigan. The way that they can run the football, it starts at the line of scrimmage, and they got a big advantage at the line of scrimmage against Washington and every team that they've faced, Alabama included so far this season. Meanwhile, the receiving core, this is where it really starts to get interesting for the Washington Huskies. You look at Rome Odunze, and he has been phenomenal this year. Should have won the Biletnikoff Award. He was outstanding in the Sugar Bowl. Jalen Polk has had a fantastic season as well. Even Jalen McMillan was a problem for the Texas Longhorns secondary. You can't underestimate his capabilities. While Michigan has the best running back room in the country, Washington has the best receiving core in the nation, and this is going to be Washington's best shot to try to take advantage, try to capitalize on this Michigan team. They're going to have a big night through the air and find those receivers open for some big-time plays. Michigan's receiving core doesn't put up the numbers quite like Washington's does, but don't underestimate the abilities of Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson has been a touchdown machine this season, 12 touchdowns off of 45 catches and 735 yards. He is going to be the go-to guy for J.J. McCarthy to watch out for. The game plan for each of these teams. On Washington's side of the ball, they are going to attack Michigan's defense with explosive plays. Look for the downfield passing game to be the bread and butter of this Washington offense. I would expect Michael Penix Jr. to really just try to make some big plays, bring that big Penix energy right away, attacking that Michigan defense to see if they can find those splash plays. On Michigan's side of things, it's winning at the line of scrimmage. And if you're Michigan, you're not trying to turn this into a shootout. An ideal game for the Wolverines is to win at the line of scrimmage and bully this Washington team for 4 quarters straight and just try to insert their will as the dominant force throughout this entire game and wear out this Washington team that way. Some defensive players to watch. A lot of NFL talent here in this game, and that includes the defense. Braylon Trice, the guy to watch for the Huskies. He's got 7 sacks this season, and he was a problem for the Texas Longhorns in the Sugar Bowl. Mohamed's been very good as well. He's got 3 interceptions this season. Look for him to potentially have a big night. We've seen Washington players in the past, the secondary players specifically, go on to do some big things in the NFL. I think everybody thinks about Trent McDuffie specifically. Meanwhile, for Michigan, man, this is a really good group as well. Mike Sainristil has been awesome this year. 5 interceptions so far this year. Colson got 89 tackles. He's been a problem. Harrell, 6.5 sacks. They'll be looking for him to really be aggressive and try to get that pass rush going to get some pressure on Michael Penix Jr. For me, comparing these two defenses, we showed you at the top of the show the difference between the two of one team being ranked 49th in the country and the other team being ranked first. It's pretty obvious this is a huge advantage for Michigan's defense, and by a lot. And I got to tell you, to me, that is the clear mismatch when you look at these two teams, is Michigan's defense is far better than Washington's defense. But they thought the same thing going into that Texas and Washington Sugar Bowl. And ultimately, that did not end up mattering. So we'll see how that plays out here. Got my prediction for you in just a moment, but want to hear from you guys first. Who wins? What's the final score going to be? Weigh in the comment section and let us know how you think the College Football Playoff National Championship presented by AT&T is ultimately going to play out. My pick for this one, I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines. I expect Michigan to play the game that they want to. Washington's too good that they're not going to get theirs. I expect them to keep it competitive. But at the end of the day, I think Michigan's ultimately going to wear out this Washington team and be too much with what they do at the line of scrimmage, playing bully football for 4 quarters. I like the Wolverines to get the job done 27-21. Subscribe now to College Football Now by Chad Sports for the latest happenings in all of college football. The season may be ending, but our coverage is just beginning all off season long. Keep it locked in. We'll see you next time here on College Football Now.